Hello and welcome to Just a Thought. This is our Saturday discussion that I have with Cindy Lippert. I'm Darrell Watkins, the Senior Minister of the Sunshine Cathedral. And Cindy Lippert, some lady I met along the way, and she thinks she's got stuff to say. So actually, she is the co-founder of Sage Counseling and Coaching and Counseling, sagecoachingandcounseling.com. And she is a former minister. She is a SAG actor. She's a model. She is a master of all trades. Also an author, by the way. And her book, what the hell is it called? The Essential Katie?
The Complete Works.
The Complete Works of H. Emily Katie. And that's available at Amazon.com. So she does know things. That's why she's on here to talk to us, because she knows lots of things. How are you doing, Cindy?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm tired. This has been a super busy week, but better to be busy than bored, I guess.
Yes.
Well, we have, I just was part of an online conference for the last couple of days, the Divine Science Biennial Conference, and I did a workshop. And I got to talk about some of the programming that we do at the Sunshine Cathedral, and featured on that was Just a Thought. So we got to see some stuff from Just a Thought and hear about what it is. And if this is your first time to join us, let me tell you what it is. We take some thought from some super wise person. It's never either one of us. Some super wise person, but then we talk about it. We at least start and end with it. In the middle, who knows what happens. It's a live show, it's a live discussion. Anything can happen and often does, but we start with a wise thought and then we talk about it. And today's wise thought comes from Wayne Dyer. He was a psychologist, but became famous as a spiritual author and teacher and speaker. And Dyer said, he's no longer on this plane of existence, but he wrote, "Every thought you have impacts you. By shifting in the middle of a weakening thought to one that strengthens you, you raise your energy vibration." Every thought you have impacts you. By shifting in the middle of a weakening thought to one that strengthens you, you raise your energy vibration. What's he talking about, Cindy Lippert?
What he's talking about is something that is fundamental to the acting craft. Now, we talk about it in metaphysics. I've had a lot of colleagues say, "Why did you get into acting?" And my constant response is, because it's made me a better metaphysician, for one thing. It could have just been a class that I took as a lark, thinking, it was going to be recreational. But what I discovered is everything I learned in metaphysics and more. The mother, you may recall the woman that played the mother on E.T., Dee Wallace, wrote a book, and I think you know the title. I can't recall it right now, but she talked about how metaphysics and acting come together. The thing about and we call it thought life in the craft. You will notice, now that I've told you, of course, you've got a theater background, you've got a master's in theater management and all things diva and stage related. But so I'm not telling you anything, but others may not know that the thing about watching an actor, Mark Rylance is really good to watch for this. Mark Rylance got the Oscar for supporting role in The Bridge of Spies, and I highly recommend it for anybody that wants to study acting. He's very still, but you know exactly what he's thinking. We are broadcasting all the time based upon our thought life, based upon what is going on. That's why ministers oftentimes, when they're burned out, they're saying all the right things, but their congregants are walking away saying, "Well, I wanted to like it. But I just didn't feel it. As opposed to a minister who maybe is less trained, on fire, full of enthusiasm and passion. And people will walk away and say, that was great. Well, what did she say? I don't know, but it was just great. So that thought life is really what we're talking about in metaphysics. It's the same thing, but as human beings, we broadcast all the time what we're thinking. It doesn't matter what we're saying. I learned that if I didn't know it before. I learned it when I went to Italy. I didn't know the language, but it became very intuitive. People understand each other. And this is why, segue, this is why wearing masks right now is so dehumanizing, because we're not able to read each other. One of the reasons.
There was an article recently in some publication talking about how difficult masks have made cruising culture. Now, you haven't been single since the earth cooled, but if you'll remember...
Thank you for remembering.
But if you'll remember, there was a time that you'd go out on the make, hoping to catch somebody's eye, and, you'd flirt your butt off, and, maybe drinks would be bought and good times would be had.
Absolutely.
Well, you didn't realize how much your smile and all of that was a big part of that. Well, this is making cruising harder, because even if the eyes are beautiful, if you ever get this off, you might not be what you expected.
That's right.
I mean, so yeah, from the eyes up, I'm looking pretty Sophia Loren, and then I take the mask off and I'm looking Bruce Valanche. It's a different, So luckily I'm married a long time. It doesn't matter to me, but
it might to him, but just saying.
No, the marriage license is a contract. He's stuck with Bruce, but no getting out of it. But no, that it is the mask thing is if you were single, it's a thing. Still, be careful, be healthy, take care of yourself. It's a necessary inconvenience right now, but it is an inconvenience for some people in ways that I don't think about, because I'm very settled in my life. I'm middle age, and my life is the way it's going pretty good. So this thought life, when he says that if you're in the middle of a thought that's kind of bringing you down, in the middle of the thought you can change it, and then that picks everything back up. Is that true? Can you do that? Can you be like, I'm kind of going down a rabbit hole here. Can you just turn it around in the middle like that?
Yeah, you can. And self-awareness, a higher level of consciousness, mentors, having a mentor helps, because you can hear each other. Now, when metaphysicians are young and getting started learning, and today they call it positivity, but we're old school. So, but it's not just about saying positive things. Again, it goes deeper than that. It's as a man thinketh, or a woman, or non-binary thinketh, so are they. So it is about thoughts. Ernest Holmes said thoughts are things. They are. But every thought does not manifest. That's the different thing here.
Thank God.
Thank God. Because none of us would be alive.
Yeah, I've had some unfortunate thoughts. So.
Oh, yeah. Well, we've had unfortunate thoughts. How many times have you said, I want to kill my boss? Maybe not you, but, the rest of us. None of us.
I work for Jesus. That'd be a terrible thing to say.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah. How's that working? Yeah. So anyway, but I know now you're in the giggle mode. Right. So but really, thoughts are things, but not every thought manifests. Right. And that's the curious thing. When new thoughters first are learning and they're reciting their affirmations. And then the famous thing that I've tried to not hate so bad is when you'll say something and somebody will get right in your face and say, cancel, cancel, cancel. Oh yeah, like that's magic, and these are magic words, and they're magic beans, and they're going to create a big stock, and we're going to find a golden egg. Well, it doesn't work like that. because your thoughts are telling, or your words rather, are telling us what you're feeling. Thank God there's a way for us to know how you're feeling. Don't alter your words. One of the things I learned again in acting is how we deflect as human beings, and especially ministers, because we want to keep everybody safe so we don't act shocked. And we try to keep our true reactions to ourselves, if we have one, to anything that may be told us. You and I are both pretty shock proof at this point in our lives. If we haven't done it or said it, we've known people who have. And so it's just part of being human. But when we try to alter our words to accommodate the person sitting in front of us in order to keep them safe, what happens in that process is we deflect. We do not feel. We can't identify our feelings. When I was in a Meisner class, acting students know what Meisner is. It's a method. It's a form of method. I was told, you're deflecting. And I didn't even know what that was. And I was asked, Cindy, what is your scene partner telling you? I couldn't tell you. What do they look like? What is their body language? And I always thought I could read body language. It's really interesting how you learn to block that. And you'll notice when you're in a store, they'll say, how are you today? They haven't even, they don't want an answer. They really don't. Because they're just parroting something to let you know, I acknowledge you're standing there.
The changing your thought, though. Thoughts can become habitual. And sometimes if I'm on a thought train, it's one I've been building up for a while. And so I'm still wondering how you switch that in mid-thought. I know that thoughts don't immediately manifest, thank God, but thoughts held habitually do manifest eventually. And so I know that if I worry a lot about a thing, that's going to affect me. Whether or not the thing even happens, it's still something is going to happen out of that. I'm going to give myself an ulcer. I'm going to give myself a headache. I'm going to not sleep well at night. I'm going to be crabby and maybe injure a relationship that I value. I mean, the thought does have, the thought that I've held, the thought that I've rehearsed over and over and over is going to show up in my life somehow.
Also ownership, my cancer, my tuberculosis, my backache. You know, that's why we say when we instruct students to journal, go back and circle in a red pen everything you've attached to I am tired, I am weak, I am poor, I am unloved, I am whatever. And those thoughts plant what we used to refer to as weed seeds. And what are you going to get when you don't intentionally plant something? You're going to get weeds. That's what you're going to get. Something that will take over your entire garden. Same thing. These thoughts that are defeating, that are saying, I never said my cancer. I said, I had cancer, the cancer, whatever. But I never owned it. And that way I was able to get rid of it.
The old, I guess it's the King James, some of the old translations of the Bible where Jesus is on the cross and he says, I thirst, not I am thirsty. I'm having an experience. There's something going on that I'm not enjoying, but it's not who I am. That I thirst rather than I am thirsty. And I have a friend who one time made that observation one time, and he says that ever since then, he has never said I'm diabetic. And he always says I have diabetes, I'm being treated for diabetes, or whatever, but he never identifies with the problem. And of course he got a good endocrinologist and he lost a lot of weight, and the diabetes that he has that isn't him is also not as onerous as it once was. But yeah, that he found that to be very helpful, to not identify as the experience. Yeah, we have experiences that we don't love. That's going to happen. But that's not the end of our story. That's not the point of our story. That's not who we really are.
Well, in your statement, can you change it? First of all, awareness, becoming aware. Most people are not aware of what they're even saying. They're not. And
Right.
you know it by their rhetoric. Again, the words betray what you're really thinking about. And ultimately, we betray how we feel about everything. So becoming aware, how do you do that? Get a mentor, stay in a good spiritual circle where you can hear each other and help each other. And
I
then
have,
learn to make a different statement, learn to make a different thought.
well, that's the thing. I have a cup here, a water goblet, and it's filled with soda, uh, uh, food coloring, high fructose corn syrup, various poisons. And this is a cup of toxicity. I love it. But meanwhile, this is a cup of toxicity. Now, if I were to start pouring water in it a little bit at a time, it would take hours to replace all of this soda with clean water. Even after an hour of this pour, it would still be kind of murky water. It would probably take me 2 hours, unless it was just a full on faucet. And even then, it might take 5 or 6 minutes for this to become clear water. And that's how I think about this, is that I'm carrying around a lifetime, at this point, 53 years of toxic thoughts, of bad habits, of mindlessness, of fear, regret, disappointment, whatever. And then I start metaphysics and I start saying positive affirmations. Well, that's a drop. And that's a drop. And then I do a treatment and that's a drop. And then I read something from Emmett Fox and that's a drop. Um, but it's not just that steady though, is it? It's drop, 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 more soda. Drop, 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 why am I a failure? Drop, 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 I'm so stupid. Drop, drop. So you're also throwing in some soda along the way. And so our practice is to keep pouring the clear water enough and limiting the toxicity enough that eventually the cup of consciousness is clear. But that is a
Well,
process, and that's why we keep practicing. That's why spirituality is a practice.
well, that's why that was the discussion, the friendly debate among the founding divine science ministers is how best to do denials, and that's what you're describing. Is how do we negate those troublesome ideas and thoughts? And one idea was to overpower them by pouring the clean water into the pitcher of dirty water. The other one was to practice affirmations and denials. And as you know, there are a lot of metaphysical students that don't believe in denials. I'm one that was taught by an old school teacher and understand the beauty of that. Like my favorite combination of affirmation and denial: nothing and nobody stands in the way nor interferes with my possessing all that is mine by divine birthright, not even me. And what that means is we're cutting off the power of that negative thought, just like when cancer drugs started getting discovered for their effectiveness. What they did is they sought out those pathways, those blood vessels that fed the cancer. And by cutting off the supply line, the cancer died. It would create new blood vessels to feed itself, even at the expense of the host. Well, that is like the human being. We keep feeding these negative ideas. I'm fat, I'm poor, I'm jobless, I'm loveless, I'm whatever I am. Instead, and guilt. Guilt is also another big one that we have owned like it's an appendage. And it's one of the most useless, devastating psychological bondage that we can put on ourselves. Guilt is just that. We have taken ownership of something that is not our business. It's just not, and it's useless.
I love the I am statements of Jesus in the Gospel of John. I am the vine, you are the branches. I am the way and truth and life. I am one with the parent, with the source, with the supreme. that the I am statements, I am the gate, I am the shepherd. It's always I am something useful, I am something good, I am something powerful, I am something beautiful, I am something of cosmic significance. That's how you use I am. That's how you should use I am, because if you attach something negative to your, I had a mentor once, a religious science teacher, and she would always say, "What are you pulling into your I amness?" You know, it's whatever you're attaching to the words I am.
Yeah.
So be careful about that.
Yeah.
And yeah, Jesus
I am guilty. Yeah.
And I am not.
Right.
Not me.
That's right.
So
yeah, we always say, why aren't the kids calling? Well, we forgot to raise them with guilt. So you get to a certain age in life and you go, why aren't the kids calling? Well, you didn't raise them with guilt.
Because they won't be miserable if they don't. And that's on
Right.
us. And that's on us. That was our mistake.
That's right. That's right.
So, well, okay. Let's end the way we started, because that's the format. That's the way the book reads. Yep. And maybe it makes more sense now. Maybe it's something we can apply better now. From psychologist Wayne Dyer, every thought you have impacts you. By shifting in the middle of a weakening thought to one that strengthens you, you raise your energy vibration. And for people who are wondering about, attracting or manifesting or demonstrating or all these words we use, it really is, and he says vibration. Emmett Fox used to talk about mental equivalent, but it's all about what we are drawn to or what we attract to us or what we create. And that is all done at the feeling level, which is energy, which is vibration. And so if you want to know what you're thinking at a deep level, just notice how you're feeling, because you're not feeling crappy because you're thinking everything's great, right? So if you want to know what you're really thinking, check in with your feelings. And then your feeling, that's the energy, that's the vibration that's sort of directing you. If you're under a little gray cloud and everything's gloomy, you're going to experience that in lots of ways. When I was younger, I was just always worried about something, and I have to be careful to not do that still. I have to be mindful to not do that still. But when it was just habitual, when I was younger, again, the same religious counselor told me, she said, you will always find something to attach your fear to. The problem isn't the thing you're pretending to be afraid of. The thing is fear itself. So deal with the fear. She said, because until then, you're always going to find something to attach it to. And that wise counsel helped me be less afraid. And the less afraid I am, sure enough, the less things there are to be afraid of, because I have less of it to attach to things. And so it's so that's, we make it sound kind of spooky with our vibrations and our law of attraction and blah, blah, blah. But I think we're just saying your emotions are showing you what you're really thinking deep down, not just at the surface level. And so if what that's showing you is problematic, we do have tools to change the thought patterns, to change the thought habits, which will change the feeling. And we pretty much experience life the way we feel. Have you ever noticed someone who's just so happy all the time? You can't make them be mean or judgmental, or those people annoy me usually, but you can't make them be mean. You can't make them be judgmental. You can't make them even be insulted when you're trying to insult them, because their inner dialogue is cheerful. And because their inner dialogue is cheerful, they're cheerful. And so what they're experiencing is cheerfulness, and you can't mess it up for them. I think it's just that simple. And then that could lead to other things like, a better job or a happier relationship or successful diet or going back to school or whatever. It could lead to physical demonstrations. But I think the primary thing is your feelings tell you what you're thinking. And if you don't like what that's showing you, there are things you can do to start to change that, because how you're feeling is how you're experiencing your life.
Catherine Ponder was famous for one of the things, many things. She had a car wreck and they pulled her out of the car, and crying, she said, I can hardly wait to see the blessing that comes from this. And recently I went through a nerve-wracking experience, and I remembered that I didn't remember to affirm, I can hardly wait to see the blessing, because the blessings did come out of it. And we have to remember that. So even as much as we practice, even as many years as we've studied this, whether a new student or a student that's been around a long time, and we do all call ourselves students because it is a lifelong practice. We have to forgive ourselves, but remember that there's a better way to think.
Absolutely. Every thought you have impacts you. By shifting in the middle of a weakening thought to one that strengthens you, you raise your energy vibration. It's just a thought, but maybe it's just the thought someone needs to think about today. So thanks for joining us. We'll do it again next Saturday.